From injustice to redemption. James's silent crusade to save a woman who was treated wrongly. When we last saw Diep, her life was on the line. Falsely accused of a crime she did not commit, the young woman was handcuffed and arrested, an event that unfolded right before the eyes of James, a man whose concern for her ran deeper than he dared to admit. What followed was not only a fight against false accusations but also a testament to human endurance, hidden truths, and a glimmer of hope for justice. The episode opens with Diep sitting in a cold, sterile interrogation room. Two investigators take turns asking questions. Where has she been? What has she done? Was she the one who stole the title deeds and pawned them to get a loan? Diep's tired eyes still looked straight ahead, her voice weak but determined. Since being chased away by her husband's family, she had been living on the streets, with no place to stay, no one to rely on. She had never set foot in that house again. But the truth was not a place to stay. When asked for evidence or witnesses, she could not provide any evidence or witnesses. Because there is not enough evidence, we will release you now, a police officer announced. But if you cannot prove your innocence within 3 days, you will be formally charged and face prison. With that grim ultimatum, Diep walked out of the station, free in body, but chained in spirit. Back at her ex-husband's parents' house, the tension was palpable. Pal's parents argued with each other, not knowing whether the thief was Diep or Linda, their current daughter-in-law. The situation became even more chaotic when a group of thugs came to demand money. But they could not identify the culprit. They only mentioned daughter-in-law. This ambiguity aroused suspicion. Diep's ex-mother-in-law, known for her harshness, took out her anger on Linda. Since she moved here, she has only known how to sit around waiting for others to serve her, she snapped. The only reason Linda had not been kicked out was because of the growing baby in her womb. Unable to bear the uncertainty, the mother ordered Pal to find his wife. Pregnant or not, she could not have disappeared. Devoted and stunned, Pal wandered from acquaintance to acquaintance, searching in vain. Linda had disappeared, not a note, not a trace. His frustration turned to despair, and like many before him, he turned to alcohol for solace. By dusk, he was drunk and passed out under a tree, far from answers. Meanwhile, James could not forget the image of Diep being dragged away in handcuffs. He had hardly slept since. Something about her, both resilient and vulnerable, had haunted him. He decided to act. Using his resources, James hired a private investigator. Money brought access, and access brought revelation. They discovered that Diep had been sold into marriage at the age of 16. For 5 years, she had endured neglect and emotional isolation in a home that had never accepted her. Her infertility had long been a red flag, but in reality, Pal was the one with the fertility problems, not her. And what about Linda? Her real name was Tra, and her innocence was just a cover. A skilled con artist, she had been living under a false identity. Even more shocking, the child she was carrying was not Pal's. It was the product of another love affair. James was stunned. It seemed that Diep was not just innocent, she was the victim of a web of lies and deceit. Compassion surged through him, followed by a fierce faith. He could not erase her past, but he could fight for her future. After being released with only the clothes on her back, hunger drove Diep into the forest. Her limbs ached, she picked up firewood, heavy bundles tied tightly to her thin body. Her hope was simple: sell the firewood for a few coins, enough to buy rice and vegetables. But the world was merciless. One vendor after another refused. Who needs firewood anymore? They scoffed. As dusk fell, she passed the gates of a large industrial complex, James Lumber Mill. Coincidence? Fate? Either way, James was there. He saw her immediately, dusty, exhausted, carrying firewood as if it were her last chance to survive. He walked toward her. "I sell firewood," she said softly, trying to hide her embarrassment. "Just $1. It's okay if you don't need it." James didn't answer right away. Instead, he gently placed $10 in her hand. She panicked. "No, I can't take that. I am only asking for $2. I want to buy it," he said with a small smile. "And I'll pay whatever price I choose. Just think of it as cleaning my yard." He offered to drive her, but she refused. "I am used to walking," she muttered. As she turned to leave, he called out, "What happened yesterday? Why were you arrested?" Diep paused. Tears welled up in her eyes as she recounted the police's ultimatum. "They said I had 3 days. If I can't prove I didn't do it, I am locked up." James felt both helpless and angry. "Is there anything I can do?" he asked softly. "Maybe you can't," she whispered. "I am scared." "But, thank you for being so nice to me." She hurried away, afraid that her tears would betray her. James stood still, watching her disappear behind the factory walls. But the image of her, her slumped shoulders, the sadness in her eyes, was seared into his mind. He didn't know why he felt this way. He just knew he couldn't look away. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Not anymore. The story wasn't over yet. Secrets were still buried. Emotions were still hidden. But one thing was certain. The road ahead would be filled with dramatic twists and turns, and James might be Diep's only chance at justice.